one of the best ways to set yourself free from religious dogma and people who embrace that. Like, you get these, it seems like the world is full of them these days, right? You get these people who take holy books in the literal sense. I know that we're talking about everything's imagination and all of that, but this universe still operates with certain natural laws, for example. So science is real up until a point, right? You can't totally deny science. In other words, the Earth is round. We send space probes out. The universe is real in that way. In other words, this is all an illusion from a cosmic perspective. In other words, everything is energy, and consciousness creates and molds it. But at the base, you still have atoms and subatomic particles and matter and energy, which comes together in configurations to form things like humans, animals, plants, inert matter, planets, stars, galaxies, etc. But these things are still out there, right? Those space probes aren't completely, someone had to imagine it in order to create it, but it was created in this physical universe and sent out there. So where am I going with this? You have a lot of these people who they take the religious texts in a literal way, and they really believe that the earth is sitting under some kind of a dome. I'm talking about like flat earthers and people like that. And then you get just the general religious fanatics who take things literally, and they like going around and, they like to cherry pick what they believe. Like, on the one hand, Jesus, let's take Christianity, for example. I'm the most familiar with that. Jesus said, don't judge or you will be judged. But yet they walk around in constant judgment of other people. You're going to hell. You're going to hell. You're damned to hell because you don't believe, and it's like, well, I'm not judging him. God's going to judge. Give it a rest. And Neville Goddard had exposure to people like this. He said in at least one of his lectures, I remember specifically, he was dealing with, now Neville Goddard came from the Protestant Christian tradition, okay? I'm assuming some sort of Anglican or something. He was a British subject in Barbados before emigrating to becoming an American citizen. And he had dealings with people who were, like, say, for example, Catholics. And, in his day, Catholicism was a little more, Catholics were a little more, old school, you can call it. And a lot more Catholics took things literally, or at least doctrinally, the way the Roman Catholic Church preaches it. Regular Catholics have kind of become a lot more secular these days, but in those days it was a little more reserved. So he was talking about how this one family he was associated with, they wore these St. Christopher medals, and St. Christopher was supposed to protect you from danger or something. And it was something to do with, I guess, World War II or something, where these four brothers, one was going to be a priest, and the others, they wore these St. Christopher medals. The one left the priest training, and they all entered the military. And, one died, was killed in action, I guess, and another one was... this one lost that limb, another one lost that limb, they terrible injuries. But yet they credited the St. Christopher medals for getting them through it alive, right? And yet one of them died. So anyway, he was talking about like people who idolatry, I guess you can call it, putting your faith in idols, and the fact that an external Jesus, an external God is really just an idol. In the same way that the ancient Greeks, worshipped the idols of Zeus or somebody, he would ask his wife, they were going to go over by this family's, I guess, house for a party or some sort of a gathering, And he said to his wife, he said, will they accept me if they know what I teach? Because he was obviously teaching this stuff. And she was like, well, in their eyes, you can't be saved. Because, in a strict Catholic's eyes, even a Protestant is damned to hell, right? The same way that the Protestants think that the Catholics who follow the Pope are damned to hell. In the same way that Christians think non-Christians are damned to hell. It just goes on and on. It's funny in a way. It's tragic funny. So his wife's like, so it don't matter. He's like, they really loved my father, and they knew my father couldn't be saved because he was a Protestant and that sort of thing. So, and he's like, well, okay. He decided to just not worry about any of this craziness and just enjoy the day. And he went there and he enjoyed the day or whatever. Apparently, these people were not judgmental in that way. They accepted people, even though I guess they thought these people couldn't be saved. It was really weird. So my point is that you have a lot of these people running around taking literal positions on religions and holy books and writings and, even the concept of hell. When did the concept of hell come in? Okay, in Genesis you have the serpent. These things really are there to teach a lesson, but people take them literally. Crazy in this day and age. But the whole idea of hell and demons, this stuff came in the Middle Ages, not even in Jesus' day. I know they mentioned unclean spirits, and they did mention Satan in certain stories, like when Jesus was tempted in the desert, and if he threw, say, an unclean spirit out of a herd of pigs or something, the stories like that. But these in-depth ideas of hell and demons and all this stuff, this came in the Middle Ages, right? And we hold on to this stuff today. And a lot of this is all just manifestations. People, you talk about people being possessed and haunted houses and demonic possessions. You look at all these TV shows. These are all manifestations. We are godlike beings manifesting what we believe in, what we consciously believe in. All of this stuff is created. So there's two different ways that, I don't want to get off on that tangent, right? I just want to throw it in there to remind you that you're creating it all. And while we are creating people in our lives, even the judgmental religious ones, in their own minds, in their own universe, the judgmental religious ones are following their path. You see, in a way, it's all good because we're all here for, this is like a big schoolroom, Earth, this reality. So I guess we're all getting out of it and feeding back to God what is desired in some way. Not everybody is going to follow the same path. But I'm kind of, with this particular talk, I'm saying for those who are on the kind of enlightened path and are freeing themselves or trying to free themselves, you've got people in Seventh-day Adventist and Jehovah's Witness type religious sects, which are very dangerous and damaging in certain ways, who are almost trying to escape something like that. You have people in certain other religions where, apostasy is basically, has a death penalty. So there's some dire things out there that people are trying to escape, okay? It's not all just the freedom to turn your back. But then again, if you're creating it, you should be able to turn your back on it based on your new beliefs, right? You should be able to manifest a way out. But it can be all very confusing and overwhelming, especially when you're first getting into it. So what I say is ground yourself and find that way out. Ground yourself, think calmly, mental diet, and, just keep the faith. Keep the faith. Keep that vision, that perfect vision of what you want, of how you want your life to go. And just, all this stuff can fade away. All these crazy people and these crazy ideas and these judgmental, can just fade away. Don't interact with it so much, because the more you interact with it, the more you bring it in. And a great training ground for that is social media. You could choose to argue with these people, and you'll create more of it. And that is tempting. That's like when Neville Goddard told people about the mental diet and arguing with people in your head. It's so tempting to want to argue with them and tell them off and set them off in your head when you're really just then pulling it back into your existence, and you're gonna experience more of that. So it takes some discipline to walk away. You see some of these like on science posts in social media where they talk about, the flat earthers come in and people like that. You might be so tempted to go in there and call them, dumbasses or whatever. It's better to just don't even bother, right? Sometimes you may indulge, but get a little better over time, and eventually turn your back on that stuff and have it fade away out of your experience. The same thing with in-person people. I used to love sparring with evangelical Christians over these things, and I had a pastor once before I was into this stuff, but definitely on an enlightened path. I have relatives who are in that and whatever, but so this, my brother introduced me to this guy, and this guy came up to me, and I guess this is how he impressed people, maybe, I don't know, who weren't as sophisticated, and they'd fall for it, and he'd come in and say, one of his opening lines, like a car salesman, would be like, I've read 3,000 books. And I looked at him and said, is that supposed to impress me? I mean, they could be 3,000 comic books for all I know. What kind of books are you reading? 3,000 books? Is that supposed? I mean, that doesn't impress me one bit. I'm an educated person. Congratulations, you've read 3,000 books. Big deal. The stuff you're preaching here is garbage. It makes no sense to me. So, sorry, not impressed, pal. But other people are pulled in by that. But when you argue with those people, you can bring more of them into your experience, right? Your subconscious is creating more of them. They're really just you pushed out. It's your own insecurities or your own anger. As you get on this path, you realize that more and more. At the time, you may think you're fighting the good fight and battling them or saving people from them, but in reality, it's all up here. This is a mind trip, right? It's a mind trip. This is a real mind game, a mind F, people like to say, when you really think about this and go down the rabbit hole and start thinking about it. It's like, So, anyway, I like thinking out loud like this. I hope this is useful to somebody, that somebody enjoys I've got like a medieval or old church in the background there for this subject. So, hopefully this is useful to somebody. Again, please comment below on your experiences, and please like and subscribe, share this out, and I'll see you in the next video.